everybody. Welcome to another episode of Horror Movie Night. This week, we're talking about 1981's Deadly Blessing, a film that's brave enough to ask, can a film have too many twists?
But only one that matters.
Yeah, really. Definitive.
Kyle, you picked this one. This was a blind spot in my Wes Craven viewing, and I'm curious what led you to pick this one.
I think I knew that it was a blind spot. I think it's a blind spot for like a lot of people, right? It was,
this was my first watch too, and amazing.
I remember it. I remember it being a little bit more interesting. I don't know why I picked this for August, but I was just like, oh, this is a fun Wes Craven one between more prominent Wes Craven ones, and fun was the wrong word, but it was interesting. There was some interesting stuff that I forgot about, and then there was stuff that I totally forgot about. I forgot about the ending completely.
So
the ending is so sick.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was an early Scream Factory pickup for me.
That
too.
is true.
It was an early Scream Factory release. When I started understanding who was putting what out, and sort of it was even before Vinegar Syndrome came into the fold. Synapse and Scream Factory seemed to be the places that were putting stuff out, and I was like, oh, a Wes Craven one that I'd never heard of. That, and I think I might have also gotten it confused with Deadly Friend.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it existed until about 2 years ago because the names were so similar.
Yeah,
too similar.
I knew the box art. I always knew the box art for some reason. This is going to sound really weird, and it's probably a little backhanded, and sorry, but it makes sense to me that this is someone's third movie. It has an element of confidence, but still kind of misplaced confidence. I think that Wes Craven, of all of the horror directors out there, Wes Craven, I think, is one of the more difficult ones to pinpoint to a certain point, because it's you know what you're getting when you get a Tobe Hooper movie. You know what I mean? You either love what Tobe Hooper does or you fucking hate it. And it's the same thing with John Carpenter. There's these specific directors who just have these string of hits.
Right.
Wes Craven has never had a string of hits. He's had one-off hits and a lot of misses in between them, I think.
It's true.
And it's take it for what it is. It is exploitation grindhouse at its core. But if we're looking at The Last House on the Left as his first movie, which yes and no, he did some adult films before that or whatever.
But as Wes Craven,
it's his
starts,
it's his first movie, and it's for what it is, that movie has something to it. It feels like it's motivated to tell a story. It's not afraid to be uncomfortable when telling that story. But it makes weird choices, there's the Keystone Cops thing.
The least annoying Keystone Cops, though, of all the movies that horror movies I've ever seen them in, they're the ones that bother me the least, which is ridiculous. I haven't watched that movie probably in 20 years, maybe longer.
But I think that they're less. I think that they're the least annoying, because that is a movie that is begging for you to have a little bit of gravity of comic relief somewhere in there.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. It balances something, but
I'll take anything at this point.
I'll
just
take it.
Fucking help me.
But
is that movie so? I mean, okay, so I think that the summer that I saw that movie for the first time, I watched with Mario. I think that we watched that and I Spit on Your Grave. And
it's not as bad as I Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah,
I Spit on Your Grave is way more worse.
I think more fondly about Last House on the Left, because it's you know why? It's because there's that idyllic 10-minute section when the girls are about to go to the concert that is so sweet and so out of place. It's supposed to make you kind of off kilter for when the violence starts.
Yeah.
That I always forget how degrading the rest of the fucking movie is.
No, but I think that here's the thing. I think that degrading is a great word to describe I Spit on Your Grave. Because I think I Spit on Your Grave is designed to disgust. You know what I mean? I actually do think that at its core, Last House on the Left is asking a lot of questions of its audience while you're watching it. Because the whole point of that movie ultimately is you sit through a very tough scene in the middle of that movie. And then you watch those parents get revenge on the people who killed their daughter. But there's this, there's no joy at the end of that.
It's
you know
cathartic,
what I mean?
But doom.
Yeah, it's right. So I think
it's
that
the
was
only
the point.
option, and the option sucks.
Yeah,
that's the only.
But
it's
hard. I would fucking do the same. I wouldn't revel in it. And that's what I think that makes. Okay, you Matt, you really hit the nail on the head there with that because. And I know that we're not here to talk about Last House on the Left.
But I think that it's important to
us,
look at his career
true.
right now at this point.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, the funny thing is that after Last House, I was reading his Wikipedia. First of all, blown away that he was born in Cleveland and that I never knew that. I think after Last House, didn't he like go off with Sean S. Cunningham to write non-horror, or was that after Hills Have Eyes?
He wrote non-horror films with Sean S. Cunningham, but none of them ever made any.
They never got financial backing.
Yeah,
so
they never got
made.
backing.
That's that the 6 years or whatever between his first and second features.
Yeah,
was when him and Sean S. Cunningham were doing that. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this is his third movie, but there's a big chunk of time where he and Sean S. Cunningham were trying to get out of horror.
Horror. And I think that this is, so my point being like, Last House on the Left feels like it's saying something. I never feel like Hills Have Eyes is saying something. I've never felt
pure
that.
Hedonism in my mind, and I don't like it. I love Michael Berryman. He is one of the sweetest fucking dudes I've ever met from like at a horror convention. Absolute pure soul, but like Hills Have Eyes is really rough. I watched it one time.
And the sequel's not much better. Like I never have cared about that stuff.
Good, yeah.
Deadly Blessing, I also feel like doesn't have anything it's trying to say. Like it just kind of exists in this early era slasher film. Like a movie that I watched, this isn't going to be my double feature, but a movie that I rewatched super recently was He Knows You're Alone. And like this feels like it lives in that same world of like 1980, 1981. Like people aren't going for the like Friday the 13th really like blew open the doors on like, no, you've got to make your kills like really violent and really out there. And it feels like even though this is post that movie, it probably was being written and shot while Friday the 13th was coming out because it feels tame in a lot of ways.
I was about
it feels
to say that I think that
directionless.
it might be the only thing about it that kind of can be denoted is the fact that it was written I feel like it was written, if not written and directed, as a commentary on, modern slashers are too much. Let's have, because this feels like a drama with kills.
Yeah.
Until the last 2 minutes.
And it feels
you know?
made for TV. Even.
It really does. Except it's so pretty.
It's so pretty and so tame and so polished.
Yeah, but I mean,
The DP's last name was Jessup, by the way, and I just thought that was funny. It made me laugh when that came up.
Do either of you guys know anything about like the film stock that they used or something? Because like this is so much better looking than anything that Craven put out until fucking New Nightmare. It's crazy.
Yeah, I would say that it's honestly, I wouldn't give that much credit to film stock, and I would probably say that, like Kyle said, this was a very early Scream Factory release, so I'm sure that what they have on Tubi was like in the early, not that they don't do this now, but like I think those first like 2 years of Scream Factory, they were really trying to prove something by cleaning up these films to look as like beautiful and modern as possible. So I'm sure that there's a lot of digital
cleanup. I need to
cleanup.
find the VHS version.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that I do think that I mean, here's the thing: if we are talking about Wes Craven's early filmography, we're talking about locations and set pieces and set environments that are very expansive, like Hills Have Eyes, Last House on the Left, and now Deadly Blessing. We're talking about big landscapes, big sweeping landscapes that he knows how to play with. He comes from an art background, an art photography. If I remember correctly, he comes from this art background and this photography background that really knows how to play with that stuff. I know he's not the DP, but he knows what he wants visually.
And he doesn't really ever do that again, except for maybe Serpent in the Rainbow. Like
Serpent in the Rainbow is grittier, though. That's what I'm saying. It just doesn't look as.
Oh no, but
that also gives it that Hallmark look to it as well.
Yeah.
This is the Hallmark movie with murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's very that.
It's very dramatic.
It feels
like,
that.
And Merrick Jensen, or Marin Jensen, I'm sorry. She was known for Battlestar Galactica, which I've never watched either OG or the new Battlestar Galactica because I have a hard time with TV shows, especially if they're sci-fi. But at the core of in my opinion, all TV shows, even if they are genre, is drama. Like, I watched a lot of Supernatural. I think I watched 7 seasons of Supernatural. It's just a fucking drama about 2 brothers who keep dying and bring each other back from hell. So
it's the perfect concept. It's like, they're gonna come back for another episode. All right,
another season, then they're gonna go back. There. One of them's gonna go back. What I'm getting at is that I feel like Maren Jensen in this movie is primed to do genre drama, because she did genre drama on Battlestar Galactica for years in the 70s.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, she's like a dramatic actor. And,
there's no Scream Queen thing happening here. There's really no. I mean, the horror of it is really tame.
It's more like just depressive. You know, because Maren is like. So the conceit of the movie is, for the listeners, we'll just do this real quick because it's not as important. It's not super important. The conceit of the movie is that this young married couple have a farm called Our Blessing, and it is right next to this basically like hyper religious, like Amish on steroids group that are referred to as the Hittites. It comes out that the husband was a Hittite. He left the religion and married this woman from L.A. That's Maren's character. I think she's from L.A.
Rumspringa.
Yeah, on Rumspringa, literally. He gets murdered by an unseen assailant, gets squished by his tractor, and then her friends, after the funeral, her 2 best friends, including Sharon Stone, come from L.A. to the country to console her. They don't really do shit. They, like, flirt with another guy from the Hittites. They get kind of murdered or imperiled, and then it comes out that like they keep talking about this thing called the incubus, and it's like this demonic presence that, and it got a little
doesn't
muddy
act
there.
like a traditional incubus. It
no,
actually acts like,
but it's a
it
female. It's a demon that only inhabits women. Right?
Yeah.
So that's
I don't
why
even know if we
it
know it then. I think that like it's alluded to, but I think that we also can just like say that like the Hittites hate women anyway.
Oh, they absolutely do.
Like,
maybe
so it's like it's a little bit of both, right?
As the adversary, because Satan just means adversary in the Bible. If you people didn't know that, now you do. That's what you come to for horror movie night. You come to horror movie night for this one little kernel
for Scott's
of
biblical teachings.
Yes. Amen. Anyway, so. The adversary of the Hittites would absolutely, like the demon that they rail against and they live their lives trying to subverse, would absolutely use a woman as its vessel because they hate women. It's actually a really, really cool concept because it's almost like it's the cusp.
It's shot in Texas, which is crazy to me. I couldn't believe that it was shot in Texas.
That would make sense. That would absolutely make sense.
But that would make a ton of sense.
Oh, and also, I'm changing my double feature now.
There you go.
Informed decisions.
So one thing that I have to say though about this movie.
The end. Sorry, Matt. At the end, Maren Jensen's character gets away. It seems like she's safe, and then her husband's ghost tries to warn her, and then the demon comes up from the floor and drags her down to hell.
Yeah.
It's worth it. That's worth the price of admission alone.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And
kind of fucking nuts.
My Christmas pick this year, I'm already putting a pin in it. This is going to be my double feature, so don't fucking try and even take this one.
All right. I'll just keep that in mind. So there are things that I liked about this movie. This is nowhere near the top of my favorite Wes Craven films. Like, I don't even think it would sniff the top 5.
But it's not the worst.
It's not the worst.
No.
But I do
I'm
think...
excited to hear what our worst Wes Craven
Are we going to go through that?
At some point. That might be a Patreon thing.
But the...
Ooh.
Write that down, Kyle.
I'm writing it down. Jot that down.
Is that your next
one
Patreon?
Your least favorite movies from iconic directors?
From like the top, like the Mount Rushmore of horror. Okay, all right.
All right.
Awesome.
So anyway, stay tuned. Patreon.com/HMN podcast so you can get some of that. Man, brevity has never been one of Wes Craven's strong suits. And this movie, I mean, I felt like Tubi didn't throw as many commercial breaks as they normally do on me during this movie, but still, an hour and 42 minutes is a lot of time where not much is happening.
It's
It
true.
felt every minute of that.
Yeah.
I felt every minute of it. It felt like I was in that farmhouse just being like, so what do we do now?
So here's the thing. You know it's bad.
Worst family vacation.
This is how I gauge stuff like that. You know it's bad when a movie is an hour and 42 minutes long, but the full Wikipedia description is 3 paragraphs, and you're just like, oh man, there is a lot of downtime.
A lot of
I
nothing.
utilized
a
that
lot of nothing.
heavily.
Yeah. Again, something for like a Wes Craven movie where it's like people dig in so heavily, and it's
But, like,
like
the
well,
reverse
there's not
of-
much to say.
Yeah, the reverse of that is something like Scream that's 2 hours long, but like it doesn't really waste any time during that 2 hours. Like that movie moves every moment, seems like it's building towards the next moment. This has, I don't always agree with the Razzies, but they gave a worst supporting actor nominee to Ernest Borgnine in this, and he is horribly miscast in this role. Like I can't take
All I
his
can see
evil
is his character from Basketball. That's
Same.
all I can see.
100%.
This is only the second movie I've ever seen him in, though. Like, so let's just be clear. That's
But
the reason
Basketball
why.
is kind of closer to what he was known for. Like he's like a goofy comedic actor, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. Like he's not, this is such a weird casting choice. This feels like they were making the movie and someone said, well, I could get you Ernest Borgnine.
and Wes Craven was like, who?
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
Let's go with
Connecticut's,
Will he
Connecticut's
wear a
own
beard?
Ernest Borgnine from Hamden, Connecticut.
So
Ernest Borgnine, I don't even know him.
You know, there's a few cool deaths. There's a little bit of nudity. There's an incubus at the end, which we've talked about. But let me just fucking say that Wes Craven has never made a sexy movie except Music of the Heart. Those are like literally his sexiest movie.
Should I watch Music of the Heart?
That was a joke, but my sentiment
Okay.
is my sentiment is
That's a
there,
drama,
where-
right?
That's a drama with Meryl Streep.
but that was like, again, I hate to say it, I'm pretty sure that was like die-hard passion project for Wes Craven.
Yeah,
I think
he was
I
gonna
read
be
that-
he was going to be nominated for an Oscar. That was Oscar fodder for
like
Craven.
I think I heard that he straight up only did Scream 2 under the understanding that they would allow him to do Music of the Heart. Like,
And you know what? I love that for him.
Yeah.
I fucking love that for him. Like, oh no, it was. I'm sorry, it was nominated for an Academy Award
for Best Song, right?
Meryl Streep was nominated for Best Supporting Actress in a Leading Role.
remember the soundtrack had the song Music of My Heart, which was Gloria Estefan featuring NSYNC as its like
Wow.
lead single. So
Diane Warren, Best Original Song, Music of the Heart, Best Actress nominated for Meryl Streep. That's what it was.
yep.
Supporting actress was Angela Bassett for a bunch of other ones. Anyway, my point being is that these horror directors all have, at least in some aspects, some sort of sexiness to their movie. Wes Craven's never. I swear to God, there has not been a sexy moment in a Wes Craven movie.
But I think that pulls
ever.
from him being like an exploitative director first. You know what I mean? Like at his core, he
did
got all the
porn.
sexy out when he was making the porn. Yeah.
Yeah.
He got all this. He was like, "This is disgusting."
He's like Matt with his other podcast where he like covers the boobs and he's like, no,
Yeah.
thank you.
I don't want to see it.
I'd also like to just say, because I didn't pop the top, I popped the top one during our other recording because I was very thirsty and it's very hot in my basement. Oh, yes! I got Twisted Sisters from
Oh,
Front Porch
nice.
Brewing. I just felt that it was appropriate. What do you got going on?
I had the hardest time picking one. I went with Elysian Space Dust IPA only because it's Elysian and that's like, the heavenly fields. But
Yes.
I got to say, I haven't had an Elysian Space Dust IPA in maybe a year. I think it's been since last summer. And this tastes like piss. In the
Oh,
bottle,
no.
it's fucking terrible. I used to love this IPA.
Yeah.
It tastes
I haven't
like
had it in
a
like a year or
bud.
two either.
It tastes like a bud. Okay. If you took a Budweiser, like the regular traditional Budweiser, and
Bud
you
heavy.
poured it into a bottle with a fucking Rolling Rock,
All right, don't
And
threaten me with a good time,
it's-
Scott.
so bad, guys. Well, I don't know why I'm saying guys. Matt's never gonna fucking try this. Yeah, but like it's so bad. I've taken 2 sips slowly. Thank goodness
Yeah.
I brought a non-alcoholic drink because this is
Good.
going down the fucking drain. I might have
Yeah.
to make like beer black beans or something like that with this.
Something.
It's
Just
so
cook something
fucking
with it.
terrible.
Yeah.
Don't
So-
drink
Yeah.
Elysian Space Dust IPA, listeners.
So I want to
Oh,
throw
there goes our
something out there.
sponsorship.
One more thing about Wes Craven, and then we'll talk about my only other quick notes that I wrote down about this movie. But do you think that Wes Craven hates dogs? Because he certainly kills a lot of them in his movies. This one, a dog gets like pepper sprayed in the face. Like, I think Wes Craven's not a fan of dogs.
Yeah.
I think that he is ambivalent to dogs in real life and just sees them as a trope in movies.
Okay.
That's the way I think about it. I don't want to assume much else. But
I don't
Fair
think
enough.
he's a pet. I don't think he's a pet person at
Yeah.
all. I don't
No,
think he
seems-
understands
he's-
the idea
he's very
of having a pet.
He was very type A from when I read about him on his Wikipedia, because I had every intention of like reading about the information for Deadly Blessing, and I just got caught up in reading about him and his his videography, because
Yeah.
one, I did not realize that he did Scream 4. I also didn't realize that was his last film. I also had no clue that he only directed the original Nightmare on Elm Street and New Nightmare. Crazy to me. I mean, I know
Yeah.
that that's probably, I'm sure there are people out there listening who are like going to push their glasses up on their nose and be like, well, you should know that. You've been in a podcast doing this for over a decade. There are always gaps, all right, listeners? Like, let me have this. But yeah, dude, like, I just feel like, because he was talking about, like, he's so, I think that the quote was like, nuts and bolts, because he was talking about how he was so detail oriented. I don't think he had time to love anybody.
Yeah.
No,
that's
I don't
fair.
think
It's fine.
so either.
That's a fine way to
no.
spend your life. But
If I remember his biography, I read his biography a while ago, and it said something similar, where it was just like, I mean, I think his first marriage didn't last very much past Last House on the Left. I could be totally mistaken, but it was very those relationships were not.
he
not
was
ideal.
not a bad person. Like, let's
No,
be
not a
clear.
bad person. It was
not
just
a bad person,
not
but he was.
priority.
I was
I
gonna
don't
say,
think it was
it
priority
sounds
for
like you're
him.
describing me to a certain extent.
No, I just
where
don't
it's
think it
like,
was.
There's a decision between being cell and incel, Matt, and I don't know where you fall on that line.
I think in all honesty, like, even now as I'm like, sort of seeing somebody, like, at the end of the day, I'm just like, yeah, but I still prioritize the podcast stuff over like,
Yeah, it's your job. It's not like you're. Okay, listen. Megan is the second roommate I've ever had. I had a roommate for a semester in college. He was fucking terrible. I was like, okay, I'm never having another roommate. Megan moved in within 2 months, maybe less, of us starting to date, and she's never left. And she's a phenomenal roommate. I love having her as a roommate. But I'm going to be honest with everybody in the world right now. If she hadn't come along, I don't know what my life would look like at 40.
No,
like, I
100%.
don't know if I would be married. I fucking doubt it. I don't think that I would have been able to have a living
we're
girlfriend, and
also-
I would have just lived alone. I mean, that's just how
we're
I am.
also of that
1,000,000%.
generation where, like, we are of the generation that pushed against the previous generations. Like, you graduate college, you get married, you start having
Family.
kids.
You just
like,
have a kid regardless of if you fucking hate your spouse. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's like that's not
Yeah.
like that's not for any of us. Like,
No, we
the
got
people
we got
who,
choices to make, y'all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
It's also it costs a lot of fucking money.
Yeah,
So
sorry. So I want to talk about two scenes real quick before we fully wrap up on this. First of all, let's talk about that old snake in the bathtub trick. Dear
Hell
Lord,
yeah, player.
yeah, dear Lord, does Wes Craven have a fetish for women's legs up in a bathtub while something is coming towards them through the crotch area?
him and James Gunn got that in common.
They got that in
Again,
common?
still not sexy.
Yeah, still not
No.
sexy. Also, I
Not
have to
sexy.
ask, how hot is this bath that she's in that the whole house is steamed out? She's laying in the
Scalding.
water. This has to be like boiling water that she's just casually bathing in at this point. It makes no sense.
She's trying to steam herself like a lobster, and I don't know how the snake survives. I
No,
guess
the
it's
snake,
supernatural,
that
but-
would have been the best way for that scene to play out, is the snake hits the water and then just the corpse just rises out as it fried on impact.
It comes up crispy.
Yeah.
Like, it's like
I mean, how are you going to eat your bath snake?
bath snake, extra crispy, deep fried.
You
double
can't.
fried.
You literally can't
Chicken fried.
live out in the boonies by the Hittites and throw away a good protein
No.
filled meal.
Right.
Like, I'm
I know
vegan,
they
and
rely
I
on
know
the
that.
harvest,
Yeah,
but
you
they
gotta be
also
choosy. You can't be
harvest
choosy.
anything.
The other thing I wrote down is that my personal favorite way that I would rebel is similar to what we see in this movie, which is just driving around recklessly while blasting Maggie May by Rod Stewart at full
Hell
volume.
yeah.
1981 was a different time, Matt.
It was my type of time, baby.
That might have been my favorite. That might have been my favorite kill. Was the car?
Yeah.
That made no sense that she was like reversing. She's like, I guess I'm gonna be okay. As she sees the fucking gas can pouring. I mean, it was the dumbest kill. It may have been the most visually aesthetically pleasing, but it was the dumbest fucking kill. Just get out of the car. Easy fix.
Yeah. You could run. There's a lot of field. You got clear. You got a clear lane.
Well, and then
Get gone.
I think we have to address the faith element of this, which is so random. Like,
no, we don't.
That's the first of strange twists where I'm like, what are we even doing here? Like,
I didn't even focus. I was so done by that point when they were like, here's a twist. And I'm like, I don't care. You know, like I didn't care about anything until the monster shows up.
Yeah.
I guess I'm sorry. I cared about the first kill. I cared about nothing in between, and then I cared about the I guess ostensibly the last kill.
Hello everyone, we're Superhero Stuff You Should Know, and if you think you know about superheroes and comic books, think again.
We got romance. We got action.
Romance.
We got comedy. We got everything you need, man. Come on down to Superhero Stuff You Should Know for all your superhero needs.
I don't know about this romance. What part are you talking about?
We've got all kinds of sketches, and then deep dives on top of that. Come on down to Superhero Stuff You Should Know.
All right, so come on down to... Wait, why did I say come on down? To Superhero Stuff You Should Know.
This is the most 2.5-star film I've ever watched in my entire life. Like, it is. Like,
Matt, you're such a sweetheart. 2.5? Give that a solid 2.
What did I think I gave it a 3.
You gave it 3, my dude. I checked.
I love that Matt, like,
I'll
bases
stop.
his
pretty.
life
It's pretty. The movie was
around
fucking
your
pretty.
fucking your
Oh, I
letterboxd.
checked. I assume he checks mine too. I just.
Kyle is
check
way
each
too
other's-
busy for
We
your
check each
letterboxd,
other's. We just
Matt.
don't talk about it until the podcast. We just don't talk about it.
Do I
until
need a
we're
letter?
on
I
air.
feel left out. Do I need a fucking letterbox?
Scott,
It's-
listen, man.
It's a bad thing to get sucked
you
into.
can use it. You can use it as little as possible. Like I really only use
it as little as possible, Kyle.
Yeah. No, I do. I know we
No, I'm
talked
saying
about
I
it
do.
on here.
The littlest is 0.
the littlest that we can. But I only use it to really keep a diary of what I've watched. I don't really look at anybody else. I mean, I look at Matt's and I look at there's a handful of friends that I look at to see if they've watched stuff. You know, all the way back to even like my friend Hunter, he had a letterbox. He was really early on that, so I always like to see if he had watched a weird thing that I watch. And then, you know, especially for the podcast, like seeing Matt, seeing my friend Jeanette. But like other than that, it's just a diary for myself.
Yeah.
Like I don't do any reviews or anything.
It's nice after I review a movie or like give it a star rating or whatever to like. It will show you if anybody that you're following on Letterboxd has also rated that movie. So it's always nice to kind of just take a peek and be like, all right, what did my friends also think about this? And you either go, all right, we're all on the same page, or you're like, what the fuck is wrong with them? Why did they give
my
this?
what did I watch has I've clocked your rating of this, Matt.
Oh,
so
beautiful. I think I know what it is because it might be a future pick for the podcast. All right, so you mentioned it. Let's dive into double features real
Double
quick.
feature.
Kyle,
Hit
what
me.
would
Kyle,
you double
I'm
feature
sorry.
this
is a
with,
Kyle pick.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm going Children of the Corn.
Very solid.
I think. Yeah, I mean, I know there's like not a ton of love for Children of the Corn. I really like it.
There's
there's
a ton of love for Children of the
Harvest.
Corn 3.
There's a lot of love here for Urban Harvest, which I would say yes to.
Yeah.
But OG Children of the Corn, it just matches really well with the tone of this. That's my go for.
All right, Scott, how about you?
I was gonna go with a horror movie, and we can talk about that in a minute. But I'm going Footloose.
Oh, nice, beautiful.
Guy was like, "Oh, it's filmed in Texas," and I'm like, "Fuck! It is exactly the same as Footloose. It's the same concept, you know?
It's the same
I'm like
idea.
spitting everywhere because I'm so excited to Footloose."
Kick off your Sunday shoes. So
Our snap. There's no way my snaps lined up with any of that.
My-
So it's gonna sound like hell on the show.
my double feature has almost nothing in common with this movie, except that the ending, it gets batshit out of nowhere. So I'm gonna watch Rock and Roll Nightmare right after I watch Deadly Blessings.
Player. Hell yeah. I love that.
Scott, what was the horror one that you scratched off?
I was gonna go with Drag Me to Hell. I mean, that was my original because there's literally the same ending.
That
Yeah,
happens.
it's the same ending. All right, Kyle, what's the thing that you recently watched, and why should or shouldn't we do Tentacles one of these days on horror movie night?
Well, the only
Wait, isn't
reason
that
we
just a
should do
short?
it is Tentacles. No. Tentacles is long.
Yeah.
Tentacles is a well, it's not
Longer
long.
than this,
It's-
but yeah.
Or I think it's actually this. This was 102 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
an hour and 42.
1977 Tentacles.
Tentacles is 102. So it is a very Italian Americanized story film about
It's Jaws.
a killer.
Just say what it is. It's Jaws with an octopus.
It's Jaws. It's Jaws with an octopus. Or I would say it's Last Shark with an octopus.
That's- yes.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, let's.
Can we pause a second? Kyle and Matt, what's a shark's favorite part of Paris?
Oh no. Eiffel Tower. No. I don't know. Tell us.
It's the Champs-Élysées.
Oh god damn it.
All right, continue, Kyle.
I don't think I want to, Scott. Do you have more?
I've been trying to come up with a fucking pun a day for Megan off the top of my head. I woke up in the middle of the night the other night, and I wrote one down in a
Oh my
note
god, there's
in
a
my phone.
Seinfeld episode about that.
You sick fuck. You sick.
Well,
Says
no,
the guy who
Kyle,
watches Tentacles.
Yeah, Kyle, I'm going to say
Yeah,
this
that's true.
much. We don't have to talk too much about Tentacles because
No, I
one of
don't
us
want
is
to. I don't
picking
really
this next
remember
summer.
it.
Like,
Yeah,
it's going to happen.
I will let you all know that there is a sharksploitation documentary that I think will actually be on Shudder by the time this airs, by a buddy of mine, Steven Scarlatta, who was one of the producers of Jodorowsky's Dune, and it's in Survival of the Film Freaks. And if there's anybody who knows about sharksploitation movies besides what we've talked about here, it's motherfucking Steven Scarlatta.
He has
So,
to have had. Do you know if he asked Rebecca McKendry to be in that shit? Because
Becca is likely in it if
she
not,
is
could-
like
yeah.
Mrs. Shark Exploitation.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No,
I get a
she's
lot of
great.
recommendations from her podcasts.
There's a good chance. It's like they all run in the same circles.
Perfect.
Jim Coons, who I don't know if he directed, but he did Lost Soul, which was the Richard Stanley
so
doc that we've
good.
talked about.
So good.
They all run in the same circles. But there's a sharksploitation documentary coming out on Shudder. I think by the end of the summer. So,
All right.
Anyway, I'll hold much of what I said for Tentacles, but let me just say I gave it 3 stars. Matt gave it 2.5.
Yeah.
So
Same as our Deadly
same as
Blessings.
Deadly Blessing.
All right, Scott. What did I watch this week?
Well, I
Or
was
listen to or
gonna
read or
save this
whatever.
for next week, but now is as best time as any because it's got a Children of the Corn, Village of the Damned kind of vibe in it, and directed by James Gunn. I watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I bought it because there was only one way to watch it because it's not going to be on Disney Plus for a while. I realized that I had racked up over $10 in digital rebates on Prime, and so I watched it for $9, which is not
Hell
terrible.
yeah, player.
Megan started it, and then it was too sad with Rocket because they animated him to look like our dogs, and so she was like, I can't handle this. So I stayed up till midnight on Saturday night to watch the rest of it. I didn't hate it, but I feel like it is a bad movie. I think it's a bad movie. Like I mean, it's not. It's a bad screenplay. It looks fine, but there's nothing truly interesting about it. Like High Evolutionary as a villain has no backstory. They give him a little bit of backstory, but they don't give him any like reason to be a fucking genocidal maniac. And like they did Ronan dirty in the first Guardians movie, but nothing compared to how bad High Evolutionary is. And I don't know anything about High Evolutionary from the comics. So that said, that was dumb. And they basically sideline Rocket the entire movie because he's in a medically induced coma. Spoiler alert. And then they like. I mean, I do like Adam Warlock. Finally getting to see him. He's kind of doing a funnier Vision, like a Born Yesterday type thing. And spoiler alert, if you're listening, fast forward 30 seconds. Post-credit scene it says the legendary Star-Lord will return. No one wants a Star-Lord movie.
No.
He sucks. And also,
think...
he only works in an ensemble cast. He would not work in a fucking solo movie.
The only thing I can think of, because I know there was a lot of debate about that, the only thing I could think of is with all of the scroll-based stuff happening, that like they're going to try to pull any hero that's currently on Earth at that moment to help out, and he'll be pulled into
Secret
some...
Invasion is so boring.
It's not working at all. No,
I've been trying so hard. It's taken me 3 weeks to watch the 3 episodes. Like, usually I consume them immediately, and I haven't even finished the 3rd episode right now.
It's been a lot of miss. But I'll tell you something that I had no problem buzzing right through this week for my What Did I Watch This Week. So you know that I am a reality TV loving maniac, and I love a good old competition show. My friend Kathleen, who used to do the My Favorite Episode Of podcast, and Joe Farron of Fright School both recommended the same show to me on Peacock called The Traitors. So are you familiar with the camp game Mafia?
I never went to camp. I just watch movies about people getting murdered there.
Okay, so this is like just like
good enough for us.
I remember playing this for the first time at Creation Festival, to give you an example. But
Matt.
But like
that is so Matt Kelly.
I know. But like let's say there's like 20 of us sitting outside, and we're like looking to play a game. You would get 20 pieces of paper, and you'd write townsperson down on 17 of them, and mafia down on the remaining 3. And then you would all draw the things, and you'd sit in the circle, and the person who's running the game would say, like, all right, everybody go to sleep. Everyone closes their eyes. They say, Mafia, wake up. The 3 people who drew Mafia wake up, and they say, who do you want to murder? And they all pick one person. Then she says, all right, everybody wake up. And then they're like, sorry, you've been murdered. Who do you think is in the Mafia? And then everyone tries to, like, based on who was murdered, deduct who would have caused that murder, and they kick someone out of the circle, and then they go to sleep again. And it's basically this game of, can you find the 3 mafia people before they've murdered the whole town, essentially. Someone had the brilliant idea of, like, what if we got a bunch of people from, like, Survivor and Big Brother and put them in a castle with Alan Cummings and just played Mafia? Like,
what the fuck?
And it is so fucking good. Like, it shouldn't be so good. I watched all 11 episodes in 48 hours. I was like, I am so hooked, line and sinker into this. And the other thing that was a mystery that I listened to all 13 episodes of is a podcast that someone recommended to me called Who Shat on Our Floor at the Wedding. And it is and it is a true crime podcast about 2 brides who on their wedding, someone shit on the floor, and they hire their friend who's taking detective classes.
They got married. It's 2 women that got married.
They got married, yes.
Okay, no, I'm not shocked by that.
Oh, yeah.
Just to be clear, I'm just
clarifying.
You said 2 brides, and I was like, did it happen twice, or is this literally a whodunit at their
it's a
wedding?
whodunit. Their friend was going to detective classes, and they said, what if we sat down and interrogated all of our wedding guests to figure out who shit on the floor at our wedding? And that is exactly what it is. Like, they're hooking their friends up to lie detector tests. They're like going through their old Facebook posts to see if there's any incriminating evidence that would point to them. It is so balls to the wall goofy, but I mean, until the last episode, every episode's like 20 minutes long, so it's like this nice little like easy breezy stupid thing. And then the final episode's like 2 hours, but yeah, it's good.
Have you ever heard Megan? This is Megan's new favorite podcast. It's called Normal Gossip. Have you ever heard of that?
No, but I'm intrigued by the name already.
So what it is it's a crime show, but there are no stakes and no murder and no crime. It's literally like a different embarrassing thing that happened, but there are no stakes. every episode. It's like they have a different story to be told every episode. It's so fucking funny. I mean,
it.
like I do, it's not for me, but the concept is hilarious because white women like my wife love fucking murder podcasts, and so what it is it's a murder podcast. If you inverted the colors in Photoshop, it's such a fun concept.
I love it.
highly recommend if you are a murder show junkie, check out Normal Gossip because I think that you will be just tickled.
Yep, absolutely. And if you love murder, maybe
if you love normal shit,
if you love normal
Watch
shit and
Deadly
murder,
Blessing.
maybe watch Deadly Blessing from 1981. We'll be back. We'll be back next week with a movie that could be a double feature with Kyle's Tentacles pick. Who knows? Stay tuned.
what are we watching?
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.